I'm loving my life. Who could complain on a day like today? Just give me 1 second here. Oh, no, I'm going to do my normal setup. I didn't think my laptop stand was near, and I had it in this case, and it's not really the optimal situation for me. I prefer it on its magnetic stand. Oh, there we go. Just give me a second. Happy July 4th to all of you wonderful Breakup gang people. We love you. We're happy you're here. Happy Independence Day. I've got coffee, Sir C. Berger 17 says. Good. The viewers are coming in. We are indeed live streaming. Just give me 1 more second. I'm going to close the door. There we go. There we go. Okay. It says there's people watching on YouTube, but I don't know if that's true. We shall see. There is a delay. As you all know, there's a delay. I'm going to have a sip of coffee, you know? Hope everyone has fun plans. I actually don't think I'm going to have the chance to celebrate in America today. I think I'll be... My kids are at their day camp situation, and they love it. Greetings and salutations, Richard King. So that means we are working on YouTube. So we're happy about that. There it is. There. Now it's coming in. Now it's happening. B for victory. Bon matin. Good morning, Bitcoiners. Hassan, good morning. I hope you're doing well, Hassan. I hope you're doing well on this beautiful Independence Day. PH says, morning breakup gang. Indeed, PH. I hope you're having a good morning. I sure am. Let me see what's happening here. Okay, that's nothing. Happy July 4th, Jared. Indeed, happy July 4th, everybody. We love it. We love it. We love it. All right. Let me get my file up. USA. Tommy with the USA. USA. I've ever told you about one of my hobbies when I was a pre-Bitcoin kid who liked to have fun. I used to try to go and get USA chants going in America for like the most random things. I've actually managed to get people in a football audience to scream USA because it rained. It just started to rain. I was like, we're not going in, USA. Everyone goes. You gotta love it. You just gotta love it. Jumper DCS World says, morning from Tabasco lands. We love those Tabasco lands. I was out for dinner for my wedding anniversary last night, and there was no Tabasco. No Tabasco. Who does that? Who has no Tabasco? It was a great restaurant, though. I shouldn't complain. It was mostly Japanese food, so I don't really care for Tabasco on most Japanese food. However, if I'm having a bit of steak, you need some Tabasco. That's okay. They had a nice hot sauce. I was happy. I was not complaining. It was a delicious dinner. My wife loved it. So we're good. We're good. We're happy. All right. We're going to be acknowledging here that the sun is up. Not only is it up, it is at its furthest point from planet Earth today. Today's the day. Today is the day where Earth and the sun are the furthest apart. It's called the perihelion. We're going to talk about it. But first, let's just acknowledge the sun did come up. We had a sunrise. It wasn't the best sunrise, but it was a good one. We got a problem, though. As I said, the sun is so far, maybe it has something to do with it. But nevertheless, despite the distance Earth is from the sun today, Bitcoin's running. We're doing great. We're doing great. Let's have a coffee and talk about what's new. So, before we get into the weather, I got to share some other news that's out there because there's some amazing stuff happening in the world. Really amazing. The New York Times has one of the best I've ever. Should I even, Tommy? Hot sauce on steak only. That is what steak is about. You have to actually, you don't put it on it. You dip it into the hot sauce. Just so you know, Tommy. You don't like put hot sauce on steak. No. What you do is you take a little sauce dipper, right? A little dipper container. You fill it with Tabasco, and then when you cut your steak, you dip the steak in the Tabasco. And let me tell you something. That's how you eat steak. All right. That's the only way to eat steak. Everything else is not. It's what are you doing? What are you doing? And now I love the former president with his ketchup on his steak, right? I pretend to do that just because of how much it triggers people. You should. Canadians, all right? Canadians' number one problem with Donald Trump, that's like the fake news that penetrated their stupid brains the most, is that he puts ketchup on his steaks. They're well done. So if I'm around like libtards, I will literally every time say, make that steak well done and give me a side of ketchup. Just to watch them go. You should do it sometime. It's a very fun thing. We marinate steak. Yeah, you can do that. Jumper says he marinates his steak in Tabasco. Sure. But it's just such a delicious sauce, fresh. You got to do it that way too. Veterans Cannabis says that Bitcoin is the real Independence Day for humanity. Veterans, we're going to be talking all about that today. That is basically our theme. And it's the same day. You're going to find out that January 3rd and July 4th are literally the same day. So we're going to have fun with that. If I let anyone other than butter and pepper touch my fillets, I move to Canada. Well, butter is very unkosher, right? You can't do that. You can't have butter on a steak. That's not how it works. I know a lot of people do it, but that's a no-go. Very, very not kosher. Hi, friends. Good morning from the Finger Lakes. We love the Finger Lakes. Saudis dumping the USD for petro oil can't be good. We're going to be talking about that too, Jumper DCS. We've got a lot to talk about today. But let's get into our fake news. Let's get into our Moscow time. What's the fakest news we can find today, right? And like I said, before we get into where it's hot, before we get to the weather report, there's just a little bit of fake news we got to catch up on. A little bit of Moscow time we got to catch up on. The first one is the New York Times, and they had an opinion guest essay the other day. And what did they say? What did the New York Times say with all that's going on in the world, right? What did they have to say? They said, the First Amendment is out of control. It's out of control, guys. The First Amendment is out of control. What are we going to do? Oh, no. What are we going to do? In the same newspaper, all right, in the New York Times, they let us know that maternal instinct is a myth that men created. All right, so if there's any women in here and you're like, oh, I really love my kids, all right, we tricked you into it, okay? You would have abandoned those children if it wasn't for the men. We tricked you, right? We tricked you into the instinct, okay? It's not your fault. We're so tricky. Okay, we went into your subconscious and we went, you are going to love your children more than anything. And they fell for it. Stupid women. All right. This one's great. This is the reason why I couldn't get into the news first. This is the reason why we had to catch up on Moscow time before we got into where it's hot, the important question of where it's hot. And this one comes from Bloomberg. Okay, Bloomberg, right? So Bloomberg asks the very deep and historically significant question. Okay, this is Bloomberg's. This is why we listen to them. This is why we have Moscow time. All right, they ask the question. This is from Daniel Moss. He says, ancient Rome survived high inflation. We can too. I gotta show it to you. So Daniel here is unaware that ancient Rome kind of didn't survive inflation. It didn't really work out, okay? I don't know if he's been to a museum lately, but it ended, okay? The Roman Empire ended. Why? Well, Well, Daniel, I got news. It didn't turn out the way you thought, okay? The end of Gladiator, the movie, is not actually how ancient Rome ends. More happened. There was more to the story, right? You didn't even get into the inflation part. So, Daniel, who's going to break it to Daniel? Who's going to break it to him? It survived high inflation. Ancient Rome's doing great. Things are great there, right? All right, where is it hot? Where is it hot today? Well, they didn't tell me everywhere where it's hot, so no word on India. I don't know what's happening over there. I think it's still hot. No word on Bangladesh today. I think it's still hot. I haven't heard about Mexico in a while. I don't know what's happening with the monkeys there. Remember, the monkeys were falling out of the trees because of the heat. I don't know if there's monkeys left or if it finally cooled down, right? They said in Canada it wasn't going to end. The heat is just going to go on forever, right? So I don't believe that. I think in September it's going to change, but we'll see. It's hot today again, so we'll see. I don't know. They're on to something. But here they're letting us know that in the New York Times that New Jersey, guys, New Jersey is one of America's fastest warming states, okay? It's not the hottest. It's just fastest warming. So if the data, and they say the data shows New Jersey is one of America's fastest warming states. Global warming is hitting the entire Northeast particularly hard, they say, right? So I'm going to go with New Jersey is one of America's fastest warming states. If you just take the data and you project it forward, I think New Jersey is going to be warmer. If you go by the data shows the pace at which the heat is increasing and the climate change is happening, and it's the fastest warming state in New Jersey, especially if you measure from like April till now, right? If you measure from like April until now, whoa, has it gotten hotter? Like back in April, I was in New Jersey. I stayed in New Jersey. I shared pictures with you. It was almost snowing. Can you believe it? In April, it was almost snowing. And now it's like 90 today. So it went from, in like 4 months, it went from 40 to 90. So that's 50 degrees. It's warming fast. So at this pace, I think New Jersey will take over Mexico and India by like September or October. That's going to be a big change, right? Luckily, right? Luckily, Joe Biden has a plan, everybody. Joe Biden here, this is what he's done, right? So Joe Biden is calling people who deny this dumb, right? Imagine being called dumb by Joe Biden. God, that must sting, right? So Biden calls climate denial dumb, and guess what he's done, guys? He's got heat protections for us now. We've got heat protections. So I don't even know if I need to warn you about where it's hot anymore. Joe Biden has heat protections. You're going to be protected from the heat. Some people call those air conditioners. Some people call them air conditioners. It's not just air conditioners, okay? It's all kinds of things, right? It's proposed regulations, all right? And Oregon, I mean, has anyone been there in the summer? Whoa. I heard there's several days in Oregon in the summer that are over 80 degrees. Several, okay? They need heat protection like nobody else. Okay. And if it's anything like New Jersey and it's changed since April and it's the fastest warming since April, geez, you're going to need way more than just air conditioners. I don't know what they're going to do, but indeed, these people are dumb and we need heat protections. Okay. Heat protection. Now no word, Dean, thanks for asking, right? No word on if it's Trump's fault. But I have heard that if Trump doesn't win, it's going to get cooler in New Jersey. Okay, so that's what the fake news has told me. All right, so that's what we got. Now, remember I told you that these were going to be the best. Anyone who vouches for Biden's mental health. Remember I said all the people who are, and I've been saying it for a few months, right? That anyone who goes out and says he's doing great, he's like smarter and more quick and clever than he ever has been, Joe Biden, right? Well, and I said Janet Yellen did it, and Mayorkas did it, and all these guys did it, right? They all said, Joe Scarborough said, oh, I've known Joe Biden. This is the best Joe Biden. Remember all that, right? We got a new one. We got a new one. And this one might be the best we've ever had. Okay. Guess who says that Biden is doing great? And this guy's a doctor, everyone. It's Anthony Fauci. Fauci was on TV yesterday and he said, he's an expert, right? Fauci's a doctor. And he said, did he have a bad cold? He asked. Did he take an antihistamine to make him, groggy or what have you? We don't know what went on, he said about the debate. So Fauci didn't know what went on, right? Fauci says he's going to get better. It's a bad day. This is a bad day, right? And he says it's unfair and inappropriate to diagnose someone from just a 90-minute clip, right? So we only had 90 minutes of evidence. That's not enough to diagnose Joe Biden. You need more than 90 minutes. I mean, Fauci couldn't figure it out in 90 minutes. Who says you can figure it out in 90 minutes? He's an expert and a doctor. And he says 90 minutes aren't enough to determine Joe Biden's mental health. He's saying Joe Biden's doing great. He's doing great. I think he's going to get better, right? He's going to get better. So Fauci, you're doing great, man. Keep it up. And if you look in the news, there's all kinds of people saying the same thing, right? There's all kinds of people. You got the New York Times. We're gonna look at how everyone's covering Joe Biden's mental health. It's awesome, right? I mean, this is why we have the news. Right, the New York Times writes, for Joe Biden, right? For Joe Biden, 1 second. Yeah, for Joe Biden, right? This is the New York Times, for Joe Biden, what seems like age, right, might instead be style, guys. It's just style, right? He's not old. His style is to, kind of forget things, and then you're not paying attention, and then boom, he comes up with heat protections. Right? Heat protections, air conditioners, right? So it's a style, right? For Joe Biden, what seems like age might instead be style. In this respect, the president has something in common. Okay, this is where it gets important, right? The New York Times really gets deep here. I don't know if I have the IQ to follow this because I don't know enough about all this music stuff and movies, but this is what they say. In this respect, the president has something in common with Beethoven, right? Wagner, right? And Martin Scorsese. I mean, it's obvious. Who doesn't notice that Beethoven and Biden are almost the same person? I mean, they both have a B in their name, right? I mean, come on. It's great, right? New York Times goes further. This is from their executive editor. So not only did they say he's like Beethoven. Remember, Beethoven did one of his things that didn't he compose music like blind and deaf and all that stuff? Didn't he do that at the end of his life? Right. So, I mean, come on, the best stuff is coming. Biden, if he can just like lower his cognitive abilities and his speech capacity a little, I bet you we're going to get even better ideas than heat protection. Okay. It's coming to that. New York Times isn't done though. They say this is from the executive editor, Joe Kahn, right? He sent out a note to staffers. And he shared his thoughts in his note to staffers. So now all the journalists at the New York Times have a little direction on where to take this, right? So he says, there's ample speculation online about what the news media did and didn't do with respect to covering the president's age. What I've seen and what our readers have experienced from our team is steadfast, fact-based reporting, okay, on the subject that began a couple of years ago as we documented Biden's age-related challenges in multiple industry-leading articles. We have stayed on that story at every turn, always with nuance and context, okay? Through today's outstanding report. They're doing great. The New York Times is covering this so well. I mean, like they said, it's more like style. It's not age, it's style. He has a style of doing things, okay? So that's the New York Times. CNN, covering this straight, right? Here's what they say. They admit, they share how difficult this has been, right? So there's this one here on CNN Business. It says a difficult task. And they say, like all past presidents, Biden has good days and bad days. It can be tricky to report on something as difficult to define as a person aging, right? It's very difficult. Like when I try to define a person aging and I'm like, they're 80, right? So it's a number, but that's just a number, right? It's not the same, right? So when I try to define how someone's age, what someone's age is, and someone says, use the number and count the years that they went around the sun, right? The years. No, right? You can't just say someone who's 80 is old. There's other people who are 80 and they don't act as old. They feel less old. So the CNN here, right? They're onto it, right? They're not letting that go. Okay, so don't pay attention to the number. It's a feeling. It's just a feeling, right? It can be tricky to report on something as difficult to define as a person aging. When his opponent, especially, this is the important part. Okay, so it's not just difficult to define when someone's aging, right? Like you could go by the number, right? You can go by the number, but that gets really complicated when the following circumstances happen, right? When his opponent is a convicted felon who regularly lies and has threatened to use the government to go after his political opponents. That's true. It's very difficult. It's very difficult. We got more on CNN, right? So CNN with this, right? They say the White House press shop has also been very aggressive and fairly successful in mitigating coverage. This is from CNN of concerns of the president's age. And so they say here, I think this is from a reporter. Someone told us to CNN. I think that's left some folks to conclude that these stories are too painful to report or that they should pick their spots more. It's clear that age stories have angered the White House and the liberal Twittersphere the most. Right? So they don't, it's hard because you got to anger people with the news. So they don't want to do that. Right? We got more from CNN. This is excellent, right? This is from Hadass. They said they're disagreeing with what the New York Times said. The New York Times said we did great, right? But CNN not agreeing with them here. We got to cover when CNN and the New York Times disagree. It's an important facet of Moscow time. What are they disagreeing about? This is what they say. Biden's mental fitness could have been better covered leading up to the debate. Some White House reporters acknowledge it could have been a little better. Okay, they could have done a little more, but who's counting? This is great. Brian Stelter has been weighing in. Brian Stelter's around. What does he say? The sheer amount of conspiracy thinking on the left at this moment is deeply unhealthy. The conspiracy thinking that he says here is that he's old and that people are thinking about swapping Biden out. That's a conspiracy in their world, right? So Brian Stelter, the sheer amount of conspiracy thinking on the left at this moment is deeply unhealthy. Example, all the people who seem convinced that CNN and other media orgs are trying to ruin Biden and re-elect Trump. In reality, news outlets are merely trying to report the news. Thanks, Brian. You did great. This one's good too. This is from the Associated Press, okay? The Associated Press, the news ticker that everyone gets, right? What do they say? Biden at 81, sharp and focused, but sometimes confused and forgetful, right? It's just sometimes, right? Biden at 81, he's sharp and focused, guys. Don't worry. It's like Biden said, forget about it. Forget the debate, guys. Forget it, right? And, I don't know if we want to forget it. Because this comes from the Biden campaign advisor, Keisha Lance. She was on MSNBC yesterday. MSNBC having a little hard time with all this. And what they said is all this coverage of Biden's health stuff, right? You know what they called it? You know what his campaign advisor called it and what they're treating it as on MSNBC? They're accusing it of editorial boards and anyone questioning Biden's health as election interference. It's election interference. Right? It's like Russia collusion. It's election interference. Okay. Now this is really good. Okay, this one works together. Okay, this is a little MSNBC talking about stuff, and then we're going to go into some Washington Post. Okay, so MSNBC starts with the following. They say, and this is Donnie Deutsch. So Donnie Deutsch goes on MSNBC. And he's talking with the host there, and he says, what wins elections is hope, he says. Right? What wins elections is hope. And he says, right now, Democrats don't have hope. We can't be afraid of the unknown. We've got to do whatever gives us hope again. Hope is going to win. And we've just got to be honest about things. Okay, so that's Deutsch. Scott Adams says they're harnessing the excitement of certain doom. And that's their best idea, right? Harnessing the idea, the excitement of certain doom. I hope my space drop results in me landing safely on the ground. I hope if I'm dropped from space that I'll land gently in a little meadow in the spring, in the dew. I hope the dew will keep my space drop velocity. It'll break the velocity. I hope I won't die if they drop me out of a rocket ship in the upper atmosphere. I hope. Well, good news. Good news. Hope is here. It's here. Kamala Harris is the coconut tree of hope. Guys, their answers are their prayers are answered. Kamala Harris is the coconut tree of hope. Okay, so Donnie Deutsch says we need hope. You got hope. You got a coconut tree of hope, according to the Washington Post. They wouldn't share fake news with you. They're sharing the real news. There is a coconut tree of hope out there for everyone worried about Biden's health. It's there for you, for the taking. You can take that coconut tree of hope and you can crack it open and you can down it. Okay, you got coconut tree of hope. And if that's not enough, if a coconut tree of hope isn't enough to get people excited, well, I got another idea for them. And this comes directly from me. Okay, this is a help from me to Biden. Now, someone else is copying my idea here. But remember, in my book, Satoshi Wedding Murders, and in a lot of these shows, I've said that, where we're going in the future is AI as our best friend, as our eyeball, I call it, right? Your third eye, your eyeball, your AI ball. And there's already commercial products, by the way. I saw the Koreans had built this rolling one, like one of those Star Wars things, and it's an AI that will talk to you. My future vision has them hovering, right? So you get these little eyeballs. Well, guess what? All right, Biden is getting some great advice here. Okay, it's time for the Biden campaign to embrace AI. Remember when I said John Fetterman was the first AI candidate because he needed the AI to talk last year? It's going to happen again after the president's dismal debate performance. He noted that he may not walk as easily or talk as smooth as he used to, but AI can help him. Come on, just get him in the AI. This is what they say. Okay, this is what the article goes on to say. Joe Biden is old and has acknowledged his lifelong stutter. Oh, yeah, his lifelong stutter. Yeah, the stutter. He acknowledged in a fiery rally following his debate performance, I might not walk as easily or talk as smoothly as I used to. This has impeded his ability to communicate with mass audiences with consistent success. AI augmentations and video renderings could serve to smooth out these bumps while allowing the Biden campaign to effectively disseminate true information about the state of our democracy and the Biden administration's accomplishments. So just get an AI of him, right? Video renderings, AI augmentations, and let that guy run. I mean, why do you have a physical bag of meat? Just go with AI Biden. Come on, right? Come on. You don't need a bag of meat. It's okay. All right. The president has limited time to campaign as he also focuses on running the country. And AI would be a cost-effective and efficient way to communicate his message personally. It's a personal thing, guys. When you get your AI avatar to go out and do your stuff for you, it's personal. Okay, it's still personal. It's okay. It's no problem. Right? Yeah, it's funny. All right. Is that a Noah Simsa? Is that a real name, Noah? Or are you a fan of Mordecai Richler? You tell me. What's going on here. Are you a real person, Noah? Is that your real name? You don't have to tell me for real, but those were good books. All right. So our theme today, and I got two boards today. I'm a double boarder today. All right. I'm a double boarder. So that's Moscow time. But I got two boards. And we're going to talk about the 4th of July and all the fun things that are happening. Ancient fire. All right. So, our theme today is, what did I make the title? Why July 4th and January 3rd celebrations are the same. So we're going to talk a little bit about Hermeticism soon, which is an ancient kind of religious idea, I guess, or whatever you want to call it. pre-Christian idea, really. And it comes from Hermes Trismegistus and can be traced back to ancient Rome when they might have had a better idea of what our history was all about. So, not ancient Rome, sorry, ancient Greece. What am I talking about? Ancient Rome. Ancient Rome's still going, guys. What am I talking about? It's doing great. It's not even ancient. It's doing fine. So here's the thing. And this is an amazing little quirk in history that kind of proves we live in a simulation, by the way. I've been using this as one of my absolute simulation proofs for a long time. And it's the coincidence or synchronicity or whatever you want to call it. And it's this. So we know we have the equinox, right? Or the solstice, pardon me. And those occur usually the 20th of June, 21st of June, and again in December, 21st of December. And so those are the longest and shortest days of the year, right? So that's why they're a big deal. That's when a lot of things are tracked to. A lot of the pagan calendar was tracked to those. Our calendar is still somewhat tracked to it, right? I don't think July 4th is that much of a coincidence. It's not long after. Just like the Christmas holiday being set where it is not a coincidence, right? It has to do with the end of the solar year. And so the truth about those two dates, though, is they're only really from the earthly observation vantage point, right? So it's how much sun we get on Earth, and then that determines. Just like today is the shortest, or the furthest point from the sun that Earth is. It's also the longest days in the northern hemisphere because of the axis of the Earth and all of those things. So so the perception on Earth is not exactly what's going on, how much sunlight and the length of the day. The truth is the actual orbital markers are not the solstice, or solstices, I should say. They're not those, right? The actual markers are the perihelion and the aphelion. So today is the day at which we are furthest from the sun. It's not the longest day, but it's the day at which the orbit actually reaches its apex. And the other one is January 3rd. So July 4th being the perihelion and January 3rd being the aphelion, the closest day, right? So on January 3rd, it is the day in which the Earth is closest to the sun within its orbit. So January 4th and July 3rd are actually the main pivot points in the solar orbit for Earth around the sun. They're very significant days. They're not just random days. They're not just exactly 6 months apart or half a year apart or half an orbit apart. They're also the two extremes within the orbit. So it's an amazing coincidence, if you will, right? That January 3rd and July 4th are linked in cosmic orbit mathematics. And so when you think about that, some say just coincidence, right? Some say just a coincidence. It's always intrigued me. And it's a little bit like the Harry Potter thing, you know, when Harry Potter and Voldemort have the canceling out powers in Harry Potter. They have a twin core wand, right? Remember when Harry Potter gets his wand, and his wand happens to be the exact same wand that Voldemort got when he was a kid, made of the same materials, made of the same phoenix feather. I guess he had a phoenix feather or something inside of his wand, something like that. I can't remember. There was something about the wands being from the same source. And it ends up becoming an important part of the story later because the wands can't work on each other because they're related. They actually work against each other at some point because they're the same wand, more or less, serving different masters, but they're related. Now, I've always thought of that twin core thing. It's always reminded me when I first learned about this thing in Bitcoin. It's always reminded me of that. And I got onto this thing about the twin core of Bitcoin and January 3rd and July 4th. I got into it further with an understanding of America that I got from a cryptographer, and the similarity between Bitcoin and America, this twin core argument, actually came, my opinion of it that I'm sharing with you, that I've shared with you before. So you've heard this before, some of you, but if you're new, it's one of my favorite stories in Bitcoin. So I love to continue to say it. The man who invented public key cryptography is named Whitfield Diffie. And there were three people, Merkle, Merkle trees, he was around, and there was other people involved, right? But this guy named Martin Hellman and Whitfield Diffie wrote the paper introducing the idea of splitting the keys into public and private key, that system, right? So they were the first to come up with the idea They were the first to share it around the world. They're the people who got all the cryptography we used for the internet going. They were huge lobbyists, if you read, for the cryptography industry, for everything that Bitcoin lobbyists are doing today to protect end-to-end encryption. Whitfield Diffie was the main lobbyist in the 90s that stopped the Clipper chip from coming in, which was going to be a backdoor chip the government was going to mandate in every device. He said, no way, we're not doing it. It's stupid. We can't do it that way. So he's a very interesting guy. I've actually got to hang out with him. I interviewed him at a CoinDesk show years ago. And in preparation for that CoinDesk show, I watched some of his old shows, other shows he's done. And he still does this show in San Francisco every year called something to do with, I can't remember what the whole show is called, something about cryptography keys or something like that. I can't, RSA conference. It's the RSA conference. That's what it's called. And at the end of it, they have all of these pioneer cryptographers do a panel together. So you'll often find Rivet, Shamir, all these people that that RSA is that Rivet, Shamir, right? So the people who came up with it, those are the acronyms of the names, I guess. So the cryptographers who were hugely successful end the show with a panel. It's like 40 minutes long. And in the 2017 show, they got to talking about Bitcoin and crypto. They said the other crypto, right? Because they're cryptographers talking about cryptography, not cryptocurrencies. So they all had a laugh about crypto first, but then they started talking about it. And one guy from Israel, I think Rivest, said, you know, if these Bitcoiners can decide what they want to be, he said, if they want to be a global monetary standard, I think they can do it. But if they want to be a cypherpunk revolutionary thing, I think they can do that too, but they can't do both, he said, right? They got to choose what they want to be. He says, I think they can take over global finance. I think the tech is good enough. They could do it if they figure it out, but they got to choose a path. They got to go one way or the other, right? And so Whitfield Diffie, who is the most senior of all these people, the most respected, the oldest, he's a real wizard kind of looking guy, long hair, long beard. And he stopped this cryptographer. He said, no, hold on, he said. America, like Bitcoiners, has never had to choose. America, throughout its history, has oscillated between being an imperial power and a revolutionary force. And it never had to choose. It goes back and forth between those two things. Now, you can think of them as opposites. We're going to talk about the Hermetic faith in a second and Hermeticism in a second. But to understand what polarity means and in that context, in that, I guess, religious context. But here he said they're being what looks like opposites, a revolutionary force and an imperial power, are the same thing. They didn't have to choose. And it got to be both. And it made me think that Bitcoin is that same thing. And in some ways, when you think of this oscillation and this change and the cyclical nature of being both a revolutionary force and an imperial power, contradictory things, very contradictory. Of course, they're contradictory, right? When you put those two into context and you think about them and put them on that spectrum, you realize there's got to be some force that helps push it around. It's not just nature, right? And I believe for a long time that America, being dominated by very similar forces, is that thing that will help America spin this wheel. Because indeed, America goes from revolutionary force to imperial power because of the dollar. That's what did it. If you go back to the First World War and you understand what the world that was suffering from a revolution or imperial powers was talking about, America was their kin at that time. America was also a revolutionary power, right? They were not an imperial power. They had already gone against the British. They were an example of how to go against the British. And a lot of people wanted America to embrace that revolutionary force and help lead the rest of the world against the French and the British. Instead, things worked out very differently, and it looks like America just took the place of the imperial powers instead of leading the revolutionary forces to some kind of victory. Now, there's a million reasons why this happened, but the most important of them is that it's almost impossible to get this weird combination that America got to experience at its origin, right? And you got to go back to its origin to understand why it can exist in these two extremes. And the origin is an amazing thing, right? Which is what we're celebrating today, July 4th. And here's what we're actually celebrating, right? This is the historical anomaly of all historical anomalies that's about to repeat itself, that is currently repeating itself. And it's this. All other revolutions in history, I can't think of one, right? You can tell me if you've ever seen one. I don't know. I've never seen one. Almost all revolutions, I'm going to say almost all because I know no other example. All revolutions, Cuba, any of these places, is just a bunch of losers that have nothing to lose. Castro had nothing to lose by going to be a revolutionary. So what if he died? Who cares, right? Yeah, what was he? He's a criminal. He had like some kind of family background, but nothing like George Washington. In a patrician world, in the world that George Washington grew up in as a young man, his whatever 5,000 acres of Virginia farmland made him one of the richest people in the world. He was Elon Musk of his time, right? And so are all the American revolutionaries. That's the anomaly. The anomaly is you don't find revolutions run by the richest and most powerful people. That's not normal. Why would the richest and most powerful revolt ever in any system? It makes no sense, right? They have everything to lose by doing these revolutions. Everything to lose by doing a revolution. That's what makes the U.S. July 4th independence revolutionary war so amazing. You had real rich motherfucking people that put their lives on the line. Their lives. If they lose, if George Washington loses, his head is off. He could have just gone away and been the richest man in America. He could have been declared governor or king of America. That wouldn't have been hard for him, right? It was an easier road for him to go to England and tell King George to make him some quasi-governor king of America, avoid a war. He could have negotiated a lot, and he chose not to, right? He chose what he chose. And look at what the other people chose, right? It's not just them, right? The cost of signing the Declaration of Independence, the cost of risking to those people, again, we're not dealing with a bunch of fucking I am Spartacus. We're not dealing with slaves. We're not dealing with a bunch of communist proletariat. It's not what happened in America. Not even close. Not even close. It was nothing like the Bolshevik Revolution, nothing like the French Revolution, nothing like any revolution we can find in the world, right? Nothing like it. You might get some Civil War cases where half the rich people went on one side and half went on the other. That's not the same thing. That's not the same as what America did, right? And just look at this. 5 signers were seized by the British and died after torture. 12 had their homes incinerated, plundered. 2 lost their sons. 9 fought and succumbed to hardships of war. These men signed away their lives, fortunes, and sacred honor for an uncertain future of liberty, right? There's all kinds of names, right? People have followed. These are all sort of heroes in America. But here's what I'm reading from who made this point, Dylan Ullman. And he says, these men weren't seeking fame or fortune. They stood for a principle, believing liberty was worth more than their own security. They embodied resolve, pledging to one another for the support of this declaration. With firm reliance on the protection of divine providence, we mutually pledge to each other our lives, our fortunes, and our sacred honor. But they pledged their fortunes. They had fortunes to pledge. That's not normal. You don't ever in history find. You tell me if you find one, right? Rich people that have fortunes to pledge for some kind of ridiculous risk. It's never happened before, but it's happening now. It's happening again. And that's why we're talking about it, right? We've seen what Trump has been doing from the start, right? And just look at what Trump is calling for yesterday. Did you guys see what he's calling for yesterday? Did we all see? Oh, I'll get to that in a second. Trump's calling for Bitcoin on the balance sheet, right, as a reserve asset. You had Forbes magazine talking about it. We got another one there. See, Trump sparks talks of Bitcoin as a strategic reserve asset. So already you're going to have to get a bunch of rich Americans who are willing to get rid of the US dollar in order to change it altogether, right? So what we have with what is happening in Bitcoin right now, you look at Elon Musk, you look at RFK, right? You look at Trump. What you're getting are, again, the richest people with everything to lose. Elon Musk has nothing to win by being a Bitcoiner and getting into Twitter, and RFK has nothing to win, right? Nothing. I meant nothing to win, not nothing to lose. Nothing to win. There's nothing to gain. RFK could just go fuck off and not be called a dog eater. He could not be called a rapist, right? If he would just fuck off and go be a Kennedy somewhere, he'd be fine. He'd be fine, right? Trump is the same. If Trump did not do what he's doing, why does Trump do this stuff? Why is he still around? Why is he still getting punched in the face by all these people, right? Well, it's a case of this weird thing that America has inspired these rich people with everything to lose getting involved in these big changes, right? So it's an amazing thing. It's an amazing thing. And we're re-experiencing it again today. We're re-experiencing it in a very amazing way. And here's the thing about Hermeticism that I wanted to share. So in particular, I want you can't really see it, but these are the 7 principles of Hermeticism. I have a Bitcoin whiteboard that I did on this, so I'll show you that in a second. But we're interested here in polarity, and I'll read it to you because the thing is a little too. I make it. Well, I'll just read it. So this polarity thing is what I'm talking about, and it's that oscillation between revolutionary force and imperial power that is relevant here. Okay, let me just get it. So what it says is, and this is I'm reading the polarity one, so the yin and yang piece that's in the middle. Everything is dual. Everything has poles. Everything has its pair of opposites. Like and unlike are the same. Opposites are identical in nature, but different in degree. Extremes meet. All truths are but half-truths. All paradoxes must be reconciled, right? So, and that's what we're seeing, right? We're seeing this weird thing of rich people risking their money, their fortune, and their fame, and all of it for what they think is the same thing, right? What is money supposed to buy you anyway? Just like we have here in the comments, right? Dangerous freedom is better than comfortable slavery. Well, in the end, it's difference of degrees, right? And so it just wasn't enough. So it was worth risking and losing all of that, right? And that's what makes what's going on so different. And that's what makes, you've got all these stories about Elon Musk talking about America today along those lines, or at least Mario Nawfal coming up with a thing on from years ago, from 2010. This is Elon Musk in 2010 talking about America. And Mario shared it today. The U.S. is the most open to new ideas in the world. I think the United States is more open to new ideas than any country in the world. And I think it becomes somewhat of a self-fulfilling prophecy in that because the United States was open to new ideas, it attracted people from around the world who had new ideas. And so it becomes, so now it's full of people who like new ideas, who aren't bound by history. A lot of the countries that have been around for a long time are really trapped in their own history. So I think that it's a really good thing about the United States. And again, it's totally right? Whoops. That America is capable of these types of changes is unique in the world. Again, you're getting rich people willing to risk their wealth for an uncertain future and for major change that will benefit everyone. Just not common, right? Just not common, but it's happening everywhere, right? If you look at what Bitcoiners are doing with Hermeticism, and Hermeticism, by the way, is often used by alchemists as a pathway to practicing alchemy, right? So it's sort of a framework for alchemy. And by the way, alchemy, the thing where alchemy is like turning metal into gold, that was always fake. That was always a way for Newton and all these other people to get the religious censors off of them so that they weren't being accused of witchcraft. They'd say, oh, we're just trying to do science. We're trying to make lead into gold, right? That's alchemy. Not true. The truth about alchemy is it was about turning things in the world into gold, but more or less through your own magic, through a manifestation of what you want to see. And you can just do it with your own energy, right? And so look at what Trump has done. Look at what Trump has done. And if you tell me this is not alchemy, right? He was censored from every platform in the world. What did he do? He weaponized their evil and made himself a fortune with the Truth Social, right? Look at what he did to the things that were done to him. And look at the gold he made out of it. That's a form of alchemy, right? That is a form of alchemy, to take shit and turn it into wins. The way he did, effortlessly, flawlessly, effortlessly, so simply. That comes from a form of alchemism, a form of alchemy, and a form of Hermeticism that are somewhat related in this way. So you can see that the same idea, right? That the first Hermetic principle is all the world is a psychological frame. Everything's psychological. In the Hermeticism, they basically start by saying we live in a simulation, by the way. I don't know if you've ever picked up on that. But yeah, the first principle is all is the mind. The universe is a psychological phenomenon, right? It is in your brain. It's not really there, is what Hermeticism says. The next one here is called correspondence, as above, so below. That's one of the important principles of alchemy, of Hermeticism. Vibration is the next, right? Nothing rests, everything moves, everything vibrates. That's Bitcoin, right? It never stops. That's why we talk about it like the sun. That's why we always make the connection to the sun and Bitcoin, and why we're making the connection to the sun and Bitcoin today with the aphelion and the perihelion, right? It's an important factor. So Bitcoin never stops. It's always moving. And that's why it's a good way to tune humanity, because of this momentum. The next one is polarity, which we talked about. Then we have gender, right? Gender is everything. Everything has its masculine and feminine principles. Gender manifests on all planes. I don't think that means the trans stuff is evil, right? I think that more or less just means that it is a spectrum. It is a type of spectrum. Now, there are things which are purely masculine and feminine. And I think physically, we definitely do embody that, right? So I'm not trying to promote transgenderism with this at all, but I'm telling you that it is a spectrum according to this philosophy. Rhythm, everything flows out and in. Everything has its tides. All things rise and fall. The pendulum swing manifests in everything. The measure of the swing to the right, the measure of the swing to the left. Rhythm compensates, right? That's what's going on right now, right? That's what we're seeing. That's the change that America's going through. I think we're going to come together with this rhythm. It is a pendulum, right? I knew as Obama was the type of president he was when he was. My feeling about it, the whole administration, was this is the end of the World War II president. The World War II president, the commander-in-chief, the leader of the free world, all that stuff, running a bureaucracy, getting into everyone's lives, that made sense 80 years ago. It stopped making sense, and Obama was the end of it. And so Trump was always the person who came to kill that, and he killed it. That's why we're left with Joe Biden. Joe Biden is just what Trump did to the presidency. I love watching stupid Joe Biden up there. It's perfect. I want presidents like Joe Biden. I want them sleepy. I want them tired. I don't care. Like, I don't want them solving all of our problems, right? I don't. Now, I want Trump there because Trump was even better at not solving every problem in the world. I want a TV star, okay? I want a guy who's out there. I want a guy who writes like this. Did you read this from Trump yesterday? Oh, my God. This is just the best, right? We got to get back to a world where, and I remember, put this back in this context. This is what the rich, successful people are talking like now because of the changes we've been through. This is what's actually penetrated into the media, right? Imagine this during Obama's time, when you had a whole Harvard team of speechwriters weighing everything he said, right? This is what he wrote yesterday, okay? Would somebody please inform our worst president in history, crooked Joe Biden, who doesn't have a clue, and while he dithers around and illegally attacks his political opponent, me, and is always trying to blame everyone else for the many, many, many mistakes he has made, Iran is rapidly building a large-scale nuclear arsenal. Once they have them, which will be soon, all negotiations stop. That's when our incompetent fool of a president will drop to his knees and beg Iran for mercy. Please, please, Mr. Ayatollah, sir, I will give you everything. I will give you a demand. Don't hurt us. That's the position this stupid fool has put us in. 3 years ago under Trump, Iran was broke. No nuclear weapons or prospects. Biden has made them rich and has no idea what to do. They started the attack on Israel and desperately want to become openly involved. Death to Israel, they chant. Don't let Iran have nuclear weapons. So, look, it's already too late, right? All these other countries, we can't stop them anymore. The imperial power of America is spent. It's gone. We're back to being a revolutionary force, first in our own country. And it's happening, right? I think no matter what happens next, we have had a new generation of founding fathers that have emerged, and they're all fucking Bitcoiners. Vivek, RFK, Trump now, right? All of these people are looking more and more like Bitcoiners. And it's not a coincidence that you have people talking the way you do, right? Now it's going to get even better because energy is a big part of it, right? When we see here, this is the cause and effect is the only real thing in the universe, according to Hermes. Now, with markets crashing the way they're going to, they've destroyed it. America cannot force imperial power over the world anymore because the money's gone. BRICS met yesterday, right? It's growing. They're going to do all this stuff. Now, it's not going to work. That's where Bitcoin comes in. They're going to fail too with their thing. That's how we separate money and politics. We take governments away from the game and change the whole nature of it, right? Because we know what would have happened, right? In America, had they even let Biden go, it would have been RFK. RFK would have been a different creature, and the Democrat Party would be a different creature, but they couldn't let that happen, right? So that's why they had to cheat again. And so it should have been RFK versus Trump, and the whole campaign would have been different, but it would have been obvious to the rest of the world that America was not going to be playing the game the same way. We're not playing the game the same way. We're moving from imperial power to a revolutionary force. We're going to have a new way of relating to the world. However we related to the world in the past 80 years is going to change, probably for the better for everyone. That era is over. And amazingly, right, the thing that is going to, like the orbit of the Earth around the sun, the thing that's going to flip America between these two polarity, between these two extremes on a same spectrum, revolutionary force and imperial power, is Bitcoin. It is literally the thing that will give it the centripetal force. It's the sun. In the sense the sun gives the Earth the gravitational centripetal force to spin. How are we going to do that with these polarities? It's Bitcoin. Bitcoin is literally the gravitational force that can allow this spin to happen, that can turn America, just like the dollar turned America from revolutionary force into imperial power. Bitcoin will be the thing that makes it change from imperial power into revolutionary force. One day it might go back, right? That's what this model predicts. I mean, I'm not bullish on nation states as organizing things anyway. So some other trouble will come, but that's what we got. We got the most amazing country. And I've said for a long time, I laughed at the Europeans. Bitcoin will be successful and your blockchains will be successful in Europe because of our laws. Poor people are going to love it. It's coming from the poor countries. It's going to come from the Philippines. No, it was always coming from America, guys. Always. And now, you don't have to be born in America. It's like Elon said, anyone who has these ideas, so they can come from anywhere else and then come to America, right? But it's where it happens. And whatever it is that we do here, the whole world will change as a result, right? And I don't think we're going to fail. I don't think we're going to fail. Bitcoiners are unburdened by what has been. We are so unburdened by what has been. We're not even close. Bitcoin Deb, happy 4th, everyone. Just woke up. Well, I hope you had a good party. Gonna have to rewind. No problem. It's been a while since we consulted the I Ching. Today sounds like a good day, or maybe we can do it later for the Bitcoin election. Yeah, let's do it later. Or maybe not. Let's do an I Ching. Why not? I got to come up with a question, though. Okay. Come up with a good question here. The question today will be, hold on. Bitcoin Deb says, this Independence Day is humming. It feels different. Nolan just nailed why. Well, I hope so. Bitcoin Deb. I hope so. I'll bring you back to the... That's a good one to leave up for a while. Isn't that amazing? What a headline, huh? What a headline. Isn't that hilarious? Like, hilarious. Okay, now I got to come up with a good question. You're right. It is a good day to do it. Okay. How will Okay, I'm going to write my question down. It tells me to write it down. How will affect the U.S. 2024 elections? Is that what I should ask? Is it really the elections? Is it the election question I want to ask? No, I don't think it's exactly elections, huh? How will the elections affect Bitcoin globally? Is that a better one? How will elections affect Bitcoins globally? Oh, no. Let's just keep it simple. Is this the summer of Bitcoin? Is it a Bitcoin summer? Do we have a Bitcoin summer? Let's go. Throw coins virtually. Cast hexagram 7. Let's see what we got. All right. Recruiting allies. So remember, my question was, is this Bitcoin, what's in store for Bitcoin this summer? Okay. What's in store for Bitcoin this summer? What's in store for Bitcoin this summer? Recruiting allies, it says. Deep water beneath the Earth's surface. Untapped resources are available. The superior person nourishes and instructs the people, building a loyal, disciplined following. Good fortune. No mistakes if you follow a course led by experience. Situation analysis. You must gain support from others. Find a way to make others want to see your objectives met as badly as you want it. How can they profit from the attainment of this goal? That's a good one. Huh? Can you command confidence that you are just the person that can bring this plan to fruition? Pretty good. Pretty good. I'll take it. I'll take it. So that's the cast hexagram was this one, if you want to see it. Number 7. That's what we had. That's what we had. All right, team. That's all I got for today. I hope you have a great July 4th weekend. I got a meeting coming up with one of you who might be in the room. I got to talk about something. So, everyone, have a great holiday. I hope you have a great day. I'll be enjoying it as much as I can. Trying to go to America at some point today. We'll see. All right, everyone. Peace.